Michael Andretti, Bobby Rahal, and Teo Fabi. Live coverage of the 1989 Molson Indy will continue. Welcome you back to live coverage of the Molson Indy. Your race leader, Danny Sullivan, across the start-finish line, pursued by Emerson Fittipaldi. Car number 2 of Al Unser Jr. Then will come Michael Andretti, Bobby Rahal, Teo Fabi, Rick Mears, Scott Pruitt, and a great story, the Canadian from Willowdale, Ontario, Scotty Goodyear, who was 8th here 2 years ago, but has been racing coupes, Audi GTs, now into open-wheel racing, all the way up into the number 9 position.
What a magnificent shot of Al Unser Jr., who is perhaps in his favorite position other than winning a race. He is closing on first and second place. He has a totally clear track in front of him, with the exception of first and second. But you know they're going very fast, so he doesn't have to hesitate at all. For his purposes, he has a clear circuit. He can run just as fast as he wants to try and catch Danny Sullivan and Emerson Fittipaldi.
And again, Fittipaldi seems to move up on Sullivan, but then content to pull back and wait. We're only on lap 31. It is a 103-lap race. We had 12 laps under the full yellow after Mario Andretti hit Roberto Guerrero's car on the lakeshore. He was not injured. Very, very lucky. A spectacular crash. Very lucky to avoid serious injury. And again, Fittipaldi seems just pulling back. There's Steve Saleen, car 59, about to be lapped. And no, Fittipaldi was going to make a move there. Saw Saleen and now drifts back into second place. So the slower cars holding up our race leader, Danny Sullivan. Sullivan goes by Saleen, and Fittipaldi does the same.
Emerson Fittipaldi is so track-wise. He is conscious of those slower-moving cars just ahead and is very good at adjusting his speed so he arrives at those slower-moving cars at a time which is advantageous to him but not necessarily advantageous to the car that is following him. He's very, very good. Of course, we're talking a 2-time Formula One champion there that hopes to become, before this season is over, an IndyCar World Champion.
Emerson Fittipaldi pursuing Danny Sullivan past the Prince's Gates, back down onto Lakeshore Boulevard. Danny Sullivan still physically, at least, in top shape here. His first race back after injuring that right arm in practice for this year's Indianapolis 500. Here's where Fittipaldi was going to make a move in the last lap. The slower driver, Saleen, prevented it. Does not do it this time. Emerson Fittipaldi, not only a great driver, Paul Page, but he is a walking conglomerate. Businesses all over the world.
Oh, yeah, he has just a couple of 100,000 acres under cultivation in Brazil, a Mercedes dealership. He has boats named after him. He has all kind of automotive aftermarket accessories. There you see Scott Brayton coming back into the action after a pit stop that would have been in a pretty good time. That's the Dick Simon team. And they're pretty good at race tactics. Now, they've apparently decided to stop their car right on the original game plan, right on the 33rd lap of the race, despite the fact that they probably have a better situation owing to the long yellow with the fuel economy. You also saw the car of Arie Luyendyk they continue to work on into the pits without any success at all.
So Dick Simon not having a good day here. Luyendyk races for Dick Simon, as does Scott Brayton. That is car number 1 of Danny Sullivan, pursued by Fittipaldi. No, sir, Fittipaldi does not make the pass, but look at this. Al Unser Jr. is right on them, running in 3rd place as they come up beside Exhibition Stadium. Now the left-hand turn. This is not a good passing area here.
Well, Al Unser is loving every minute of this because he knows that Sullivan is having to alter his line to prevent Fittipaldi from getting a good run into the corner. On the other hand, Fittipaldi is very good at making this little dart to the right, worry Sullivan to the right, and then Sullivan will move over to try to avoid that, and Fittipaldi will say, okay, this time we'll do it to the left. All of this really goes to the advantage of little Al, who can watch these tactics occur and place himself in a good position to get both of them if they have a mistake.
There is no question, Danny Sullivan, there's car 14, A.J. Foyt, the great Texan, who started at the back of the grid. He's about to be lapped by Danny Sullivan. There's no question Sullivan's the man under pressure here. but he begins to put some distance between himself and the second-place car of Emerson Fittipaldi as Sullivan goes by A.J. Foyt and comes up on Brayton.
Well, they're running through a great deal of traffic, and they have to tiptoe running through here. You see Michael Andretti closing into this fight as well because of this traffic. Michael has been able to close in right on the back of Al Unser Jr. So with the slower traffic running just ahead, all of the front four have been able to close up on one another, and it's a pretty good time to do so. They've completed 36 laps of the race now. They all have to be thinking about pit stops. In fact, some of the slower cars have already begun to make their stops.
We saw car 14 briefly, the great Texan A.J. Foyt. Paul, a lot of people wonder why Foyt doesn't do better. You were explaining to me why yesterday. I mean, it's really amazing he does as well as he does.
Well, A.J. has so much else going on. He loves to race. Probably if he were a more reasonable man, a more practical man, which no race driver ever is, he would probably say, why don't I pay attention to my business? But he is, after all, a race driver first and foremost, and he likes to race. But his other opportunities don't give him enough time to test. So when A.J. comes to the track, it's virtually without any test time whatsoever. And yet he is capable of getting up, running with the leaders, and leading a race. And that tells you how really great that champion is.
Danny Sullivan is leading. Scott Goodyear is running ninth. The other two Canadians are still running. John Jones is running 12th after starting at the back of the pack, and Ludwig Heimrath is now running 14th. It's Sullivan, Fittipaldi, Unser, Andretti, and Rahal, the top five. There's Ludwig Heimrath, car number 71, and Ludwig is about to be lapped by the leader, Danny Sullivan. Ludwig is running 14th.
Bernard Jourdain pulls out of the leader's way and into the pits, and as Danny flashes by this time, his crew will tell him that they would like to see him stop in just 3 more laps. So they're going to stop him on lap number 40, which will carry him a good 5 or 6 laps beyond the original game plan, and that gives all of the leaders a tremendous advantage in this race because they no longer have to worry about fuel economy. They can run flat out to the checkered flag. The first stops for the leaders coming up in 3 to 4 laps now.
You just saw the shot from Ludwig Heimrath's car as the top three, Sullivan, Fittipaldi, and Unser, have now lapped Ludwig Heimrath, who is running in the McKenzie car in position number 14. Our leader is Danny Sullivan. He is followed by Emerson Fittipaldi, Al Unser Jr., Michael Andretti, and Bobby Rahal. We'll continue live from Toronto after this. Daniels and Pat Gonzalez as we welcome you back to the 1989 Molson Indy. And I tell you, Paul, it's going to get very, very exciting here in the next couple of minutes.
Well, as we watch Al Unser Jr. coming down for his stop, they've also told the leader, Danny Sullivan, that they want him in on the next lap. There is Dominic Dobson as he makes his stop. He is not a contender at the front of the field. Al Unser Jr., who is into the pits as well, is one of the contenders. And the lead crew, there is Al Unser Jr. making his stop. All 4 tires, a full 40 gallons of fuel, and they get him back in the course. Nice work by the Gallus Racing team. But the thing to watch now is right down at the end of the pits, and we watched them as they came out over that yellow line. There's a very strict rule. You can't exit the pits and get all 4 wheels over that yellow line. It's a safety matter. They don't want the car to drift out into the racing line when it's exiting the pits. Now the Penske team has tires and equipment laid out in the pits. 6 men over the wall. That's the rule, no more. And they are waiting for the leader, this man, Danny Sullivan.
Al Unser Jr. was running 3rd, went in for fuel and tires, is now dropped down to the 7th position, and into the pits comes our race leader for Roger Penske, Danny Sullivan.
To the Penske team, ready to go to work on this car. Chuck Sprague, the team manager, watches this car as it rolls in. The crew ready to go to work now. You see they've made the connection to the fuel on the side of the car. You watch the time roll off. A great pit stop is about 16 seconds. It is really controlled by the fuel. Already all 4 tires are on the car. And look at that. 13.9 seconds. What a great stop for the Penske team. Now we watch Emerson Fittipaldi. He should be due.
He is due indeed, and Danny Sullivan is dropped down to the number 5 position. So it is Michael Andretti, Emerson Fittipaldi, Bobby Rahal, Rick Mears, and Danny Sullivan.
And in reality, Andretti is just behind Fittipaldi. He should be able to pick the lead up if he can stay out a little longer than Fittipaldi. This is first and